that 50 is too many. So do join and hop over and vote and recommend some books. And if you want to do a takeover and write an article, then you're very welcome at this point. But Paul, are you there? Could you come on camera if you are?
Hello.
Yay, Paul! I can see you there. Brilliant. So thank you so much for coming, Paul. You're the final part of a hugely immense session. And it has been really incredible. People have just been doing so much. So um, we have got 20 minutes now, and then we will do the prize draw. But I mean, I do have your bio here, but Paul, are you kind of happy to introduce yourself? And then
Yeah.
we would just do a little bit of a chat for everyone. Because basically, Paul is here as our container because he's got this incredible job running this incredible network that is advancing everything we've been talking about today. So please do introduce yourself, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. Very nice to be here. And yeah, it looks like you've had a great session. So I am Paul Chadwick. I am a clinical psychologist by training, which means I started my career a long time ago, back in St Mary's Hospital in London. Um, where I was kind of working with individuals, and I I became really interested in behavior change because uh, I had my job was at the time to work with people who had my job was to diagnose whether or not HIV had gotten into the brain, and if that was the case, support people in the last 6 months of their life and their family. Um, And then what happened is that antiretroviral therapies came around, and uh, all of those people that I'd helped prepare for the end of life were suddenly experienced an extraordinary physical renewal. And the key to that renewal was taking the medication as prescribed. But very interestingly, not everyone took medication as prescribed. And I became really interested in why that was the case, which led me into theories of behavior change applied both kind of at the individual level, but also at the population level, because I began to apply that to obesity. And so I basically kind of tried to, I became the director of the UCL Centre for Behaviour Change. I was deputy director of the UCL Centre for Behaviour Change, and now the director of the Behavioural Science in Public Health Network, because I realised that these insights from the behavioural and social sciences are so critical to delivering effective, um, accessible and equitable kind of human public sector services, that we kind of need everybody to know about this. And so the goal of the BSPHN, our reason for existing, is to promote awareness and use of behavioural and social science in public sector service delivery. And I guess that's why I'm here today, to kind of champion what Ruth is doing and what you're interested in, and I suppose make a bit of a plea for thinking about the ways in which behavioural and social sciences can help with inclusion.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Paul. And yeah, it's been an incredible morning. We started off with Tom and Luann looking at actually, Tom was even talking about system one and system two, understanding our decision making and where the biases fit in there, and simply the need to understand of all these influences that are consciously and subconsciously impacting us all the time. And then we moved across to at scale. Um, Catherine looked at inclusion, taking inclusion at scale, so bringing everyone with us, because we haven't always been great at that. And then Elizabeth went into trust, building trust for marginalized communities, so deep. And then Katie, a very powerful session. Katie is amazing health market researcher on how to ask good questions, which is a key skill And it doesn't have to be a behavioral scientist, does it, that does that? That is a commissioner, communicator, marketer, service design officer, everyone. And then we just finished with Alison, who did incredible the We Are Undefeatables. So local application using storytelling, which actually interesting Tom mentioned. So it's just as a big recap of the morning, that's what we've all been talking about. So from your perspective in this fireside chat, what do you think? How would you describe inclusion from a behavioral science perspective? What does it actually mean?
Yeah, I love the concept of a fireside chat. I feel as though I should have a smoking jacket and
Yes,
a
we need to
Negroni, but
change the
it's
backgrounds.
I
We
know,
need
I know.
we need a cat. We need a cat to walk across right now.
We do, we do. So, before I answer the inclusion question, well, actually, it is an inclusion issue. I think that thing that you said is really, really important. That the vast, what I always say is I mean, I've got probably 10 years in higher education to kind of call myself a psychologist and a behavioral scientist. But you don't want people like me running the world. What I always say is that the vast amount of attempts to change behavior in the world are not done by professional psychologists or professional behavioral scientists with PhDs. They're done with people in roles, in kind of public sector roles with deep understanding of the public sector and the communities that they're working with. And I think just adding a bit of behavioral science zhuzh to that work can benefit, can produce kind of real rewards. And so behavioral science is for everyone, inclusion, regardless of kind of your kind of professional training. But the BS, what I think the question was, just reminding myself of that, what does behavioral science look like from a what does inclusion look like from a behavioral science perspective? I think it's a complicated answer, as psychologists tend to give, but the short answer is inclusion is about making sure that our public sector services are configured in such a way to ensure that this kind of fairer, healthier society is achievable for everyone, no matter where your background, your kind of background. And the behavioral science angle means that that can only be achieved if we really understand what's driving human behavior, so that we can identify, change, and kind of reshape both the internal and external conditions that prevent people from accessing services or engaging with the people that design services, or kind of make use of what's available. And I think importantly, this doesn't mean locating the source of the problem within the individual, and their thoughts and their beliefs and their values. It's rather about understanding the ways that those thoughts, beliefs, values kind of are shaped by the context and the systems that are embedded within the history, the geography of an area, the kind of culture, that kind of show up in the way people behave. And I think we can turn that lens to the people that we're trying to include, but we can also turn that lens on ourselves as providers to kind of help us think about what ideas we have and how our contexts shape the work that we do. And frameworks from behavioral science are really kind of like these things we've developed. So things like the behavior change wheel, East, Mindspace, System 1, System 2, all of those, they're there to make behavioral science insights accessible, so that we can meaningfully engage with communities, understand the barriers and facilitators they face, and devise practical and, importantly, evaluatable interventions to change these.
I love what you just said there about, I've just written it down, about how as providers, as working in this field, we also shape the context. And we've been looking a lot at that, well, a little bit in a very relaxed fashion, I have to say, over in the Brain Fuel Book Club. But could you explore that just a little bit more? Because I think that's such a powerful thing,
Yeah.
especially in health. If we reflect on our own health when we're making decisions for populations and
Well, a really interesting, going back to the thing you said when you were introducing me, is the importance of ourselves, looking at ourselves, and books. Okay, so there's some really, recently really I realized that my ability to read had been shot to pieces by my academic career, and always reading and the pressures of personal and professional life. And I realized that I trained my mind to skim read everything, to access or extract the key bit of value from every text. And I used to love reading, and I stopped loving it. So last year, I started on a personal project of trying to fall in love with reading again. And I did
oh,
that by
yay.
teaching myself to read in the way I used to teach my kids to read. So, like sounding out almost. And I read, me being me, I read lots of literature on this. But what it showed you, when you look at things from a cognitive neuropsychological perspective, there are big differences between reading a book and reading on screen, even a Kindle. And one of those differences is the way in which it activates, reading on a page activates the empathy centers on the brain in very subtle but different ways that aren't activated when you read on a screen. So
Wow.
coming back to this point about personal and professional, what we believe at the BSPHN is the personal is always professional. How we understand our world is, and there's a technical term for this. It's called reflexivity, not reflectiveness, and reflexivity. And it's about kind of understanding how the ways we kind of our understanding of the world and our actions in it shape the world that we're trying to influence. And I don't think we do enough of that in behavioral science. We assume, and so it encourages us by reflecting on ourselves and our experiences, because when we work in public health, drinking, smoking, overeating, not taking enough exercise, just the big four. If we delve deeply into our own kind of subjectivity about why we can't really do this, I think we'll probably get more interesting insights than by reading the latest kind of very highly educated tome on something. And it may make us think about how we're approaching those questions in our work with others. So I'm a big fan of integrating the lived experience element of our personal lives with our professional lives and finding a way to bring these two together. That's called reflexivity. And I think it's kind of the hallmark of really good behavioral science. And it's more a feature, interestingly, of more socially orientated behavioral science than it is of more psychological behavioral science, where we tended to make subjectivity a bad, we've given it a bad name, and I think that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and so Paul, because we've mentioned behavioral science a lot, and I think when we did our bootcamp training, there's a lot of assumption that you need to be a behavioral scientist, go off and get your master's in behavioral science to use behavioral science. And we always used to say, well, if you want to be a behavioral scientist, then yes, you do need to go off. But if you want to apply the research that those wonderful, kind behavioral scientists have gone off and done for you, do, because actually, if no one uses this research, applies it in the real world, then what's the point in the research? And so I know that the network is called the Behavioural Science and Public Health Network, but you don't have to be a behavioural scientist, do you? I mean,
No,
everyone here, we have probably got none on the line. Of the 270 that signed up, I don't think we've probably one or two. So, but actually, this network is for everyone that signed up.
it is. So we have two people that we're trying to work with and actually bring together. And so the BSPHN is basically it's a community of practice, and we would like to bring together the nerds in behavioral science. So people like me who've done lots of degrees in them and are kind of, practiced in universities, and the practitioners, the people using behavioral science, who are by far the wider group, and who actually have some of the most interesting insights. I think the most interesting work in behavior change is being done on the ground, not by often the people in academic institutions. And that's why we exist. We exist to bring those two communities together to learn from each other and share best practice, but also to elevate the voice and insights of the person who is applying behavioral science, because it's an applied discipline and it's a practice. You do something and you learn something from that practice that you then should kind of reflect on and make changes to the next time you do it. So we're for anybody who wants to use behavioral science. And, we run events throughout the year, basically, I suppose our big annual conference for people to see the work of their peers. And one of our aims is really to reduce replication as well, because there's a lot of replication for behavioral science. In behavioral science, a lot of people reinventing the wheel in different communities. And sometimes we need to go deep into the particular community that we're looking to support, but we can also learn a lot from what's been done in other areas.
Yeah. So thank you, Paul. Honestly, I couldn't encourage everyone more to get in touch. You just had your national conference, haven't you? Where there was dozens and dozens of posters being shared of local best practice. Loads of learning, loads of sharing. Is there anything coming up with inclusion specifically, or would you just say it's a value that underpins everything? And what's the first step for people to get involved?
Okay, so I think it's kind of underpins everything that we do, although we are looking to do an event this year and we're just kind of working out that on behavioral science and health equity.
Yay.
Because there's so many ways in which behavioral science can be applied to support efforts to improve, to reduce disparities, basically. So we want to do some work on showcasing that. So if you've got work, and we don't want to just have some very learned professor talking. We know we know there's disparities, right? I'm so bored of hearing about. I'm not bored of hearing about them, but I'm bored of them being re-described to me. What I want to know, what will bore me, not bore me at all, is work that has been done on reducing those disparities. So if anybody in the audience has behaviorally sciencey informed work that they think they could showcase, then do contact us. The best way to contact us is through kind of our newsletter, and sign up to our newsletter, but also follow us on LinkedIn. And I think the other thing is that we are like a community, so don't wait for us to proclaim upon high about what's important. Actually, if you've got an idea you think behavioral science could use, or you want to make connections in this area, you use us to make connections in this area, get in touch with me, talk to me about what it is that you want and you need, and we can kind of a lot of our work is done from the grassroots upwards, because we're for practitioners. So if people have a vision and we can help deliver that vision through our resources and networks, then do speak to us.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Paul. Honestly, you're such a perfect ending to a wonderful morning. Because we've literally come to the end, and it's like this network is here to support everyone take everything they've learned forward. So we're going to move on to the book draw now. There's lots of links in the chat going in for everyone. And we've got a couple of minutes, and then it's the end of the morning. We will finish on time. But just a huge, huge thank you for taking your time out today. Really appreciate you. Um, do a wave goodbye. We definitely need, like, if we do this again, a clap or a sound, don't we, to signal transition for everyone. But it is book giveaway time for everyone. So thank you, Paul. Firstly, before, a huge thank you to the speakers. Huge thank you to you for jumping ship, changing tech with us. To choose the type from, it's called Typeform, that's what we use, to choose who the winner is, drum roll, we just need a number. So literally, I'm going to say a question. Whoever answers first in the chat will win, but it's not your name. So I'll just ask you, please, for a number between 1 and 54, and whoever is that number on the responses will win. Oh, so looks like first. Oh, Joe was first. 7. And who is 7? Hold on, let's find out. Sorry, doing this in real time, folks. Oh, got lots of 7s there. 1, 2, 3. Oh, and oh my God, can we do another number? Because Catherine, it's you, and we can't do Catherine. Okay, gonna draw it again. Sorry, Catherine's the speaker. She won't mind. She won't mind. Let's go. Another number, please. Okay, I've got coming up here. Okay, so I'm going to go backwards just for ease. 37. Bear with me, folks. I shouldn't have chosen 37. It's too far. And the answer is, oh, hold on. Ben Hallett. Ben is the winner. So Ben, thank you so much for completing the form. Ben, we will get in touch with you if you're still online. Big clap to you. And we will send you all these books for you to share with your colleagues and whatnot. Woohoo! Congratulations, Ben. But actually, today, everyone, look, we're going to send you everything. So we're going to send you all the videos. We're going to send you the empathy mapping so you can get these conversations started. And we're also going to chuck in our behavior change marketing bootcamp module 1 training so you can use it. Now, the reason we keep that in presentation form for you is for you to use it. So there's been loads of questions about how do we get our senior leaders to do this? How can we take it forward? And often you have to convince internally. We know that. So that's why we give it in presentation, because we just want you to use it. So your ultimate steal is just steal it, because it explains behavior change and everything. You don't even have to write the slides. We're so happy. We just want everyone out there doing it. We don't. You can take our logo off, put your logo on, everything. But thank you so, so much to everyone for joining, being patient, and everyone. Honestly, I really feel like shifting towards creating better health for everyone is how we get true inclusion. And things like this really, you know, just prioritize inclusion, keeping it front of mind. And actually, if you do want to share any stop start steals with us, we'd love to hear from you as well. I hope that format helped you cement the micro learnings too. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ruth.
Oh, thanks, Alison.
Bye-bye.